So we are still in the talk about security, and honestly we still got a lot to talk about in here. And in this video, hopefully, I'm going to cover the topic of SSO or single sign-on. So this is a very common and a very wide practice and implementation in medium and large organizations. Basically, imagine that you have many applications in the organization and each department uses one or more of these applications to manage their activities and perform their tasks. And each application would have its own database of users and its own source of authorization and roles database, or whatever that is called, to manage the permissions and access and all of this. Users would have to remember a separate set of credentials for each application and for each service, and those set of credentials and services and login details for sure would end up on a sticky note on their screens or on their keyboard. So that means you are having some sort of a security issue or a security leak or exposure and so on. So one way to work around this is to make sure the login credentials are the same for all of the applications. But if you're doing this manually, then this is a useless practice, as there are a lot of management activities and there are a lot of management issues and difficulties that might come out of this. Basically, this is not how it should be done. So the correct way to do this is by using SSO or single sign-on. So the SSO is basically a layer of a service that you can implement in front of your applications or in front of your workloads. So this is app 1, this is app 2, and this is app 3 and app 4. Basically, all of the applications that can support this will be able to benefit from it and will be able to integrate with that. And the users, when they want to log in, usually they will go straight to the application and authorize it or authorize against it and log in. But you will eliminate this and they will go to the SSO system, where it will read the users or the identities from another system, supposedly your Active Directory, and then it will check the users from there, make sure they are really who they are, authenticate them, and then send them back to the service that they are asking to log into, where in that service the securities and the roles and the permissions are all managed separately for the users. If that application supports it, then it can also integrate with the Active Directory and it can pull the roles and the groups or assign the roles to the user based on a group membership or something. So assume that you have a group called managers, for example, where all of the users who are supposed to manage a service will be part of that group, and then you give permissions to that group only to manage the aspects of that application and services. So users will inherit those permissions from that group and so on. So there are multiple solutions that can do this, and they all differ by the brand name, the vendor, the features, and the reporting features and services. However, they all share the same core principle, which is providing the single sign-on capability through integrating with another or by providing their own identity database or repository. So the underlying protocol for this is called SAML, Security Assertion Markup Language, and that is SAML 2.0 because there have been an older version of this that is, I think it's outdated and it's not supported anymore. So this is a standard that every application must support in order to work and support single sign-on configuration and environment. And before I go into the admin console and show you what are the exact settings and details for that service in G Suite and some sort of a demo with this also, I just want to finish the theory part before going into the G Suite admin console with this lovely diagram that I'm going to switch to in a bit. So this is the data flow or the process flow diagram for the single sign-on authentication process. This is specific to Google when Google is configured as the service provider when it's integrated with a third-party identity provider. So to give you a little explanation on this, basically the user will start by requesting the sign-in page, or will start by requesting, for example, the Gmail page. Then Google will present the user with the login screen, the familiar login screen that you know about Gmail. But when the user types his email address that ends with for example, the whatever organization that is supporting the single sign-on and whatever organizations that have single sign-on configured, then Google will redirect the user, the browser of the user, to the single sign-on login URL, which you will see later on in the demo. Then the user will authenticate on that page, and then Google will, or the single sign-on system will send the response back to Google through the ACS link, that is Assertion Consumer something. Then Google will verify that the user is already authorized. Then it will check the permissions or the privileges that are granted to the user, and then it will redirect the user to the login or to the Gmail interface, where he can check his email and start work on the service and features of G Suite. So this is basically the high-level process flow for the single sign-on process, or the transaction steps as they are mentioned here. If you're using Active Directory and if you're looking to integrate G Suite with your Active Directory for single sign-on, then there are two very great resources that you can have for this. And basically the link that I am going to show you is for a more broader scope than just G Suite in terms of single sign-on implementation and concepts. But again, I want you to see this article and I want you to read it, just so you get the basics about the foundation and the general information behind SSO and Google Cloud and G Suite. This is basically part of the requirements for the Professional Collaboration Engineer certification and exam, and it would be great that you know about it and if you read it. And also knowing how to fish is much more useful than just having the fish on the bowl ready to be cooked and then eating. So getting yourself familiar with this article is very great and very useful for you. Just read this to the end, and once you reach the end, you will find a set of links, related information. So two links that are important here that I want to show you that are related to Active Directory, that are called Federate Google Cloud Platform with on-premise Active Directory and with Azure Active Directory. So the on-premise Active Directory is the link that will explain to you how you can configure the integration with ADFS, Active Directory Federation Services. This is a set of 3 articles. It's very great and very informative read. I really encourage you to read it. It will explain how the two services will work together, what do you need to configure on both sides, and then the actual configuration on ADFS side. You will get a very simple instructions to follow and very straightforward details that you will apply on the ADFS side and on your G Suite side as well. So this is for the on-prem Active Directory in ADFS. The other link is for the Azure Active Directory, and I haven't experimented with this really. I did the ADFS part many times, but I didn't experiment with the Azure Active Directory. So if you are familiar with that, and if you have the platform or if you have the requirements for it, then this is again the article for you. Just read it and check it out. This is, I think, only one article, but there are a lot of details in here. And again, before going into the admin console, I just want to point out some other few important points. The first one is the super admins will not be prompted to log in via the SSO mechanism. When a super admin wants to log in an SSO enabled domain, he will just be logging into the Google Cloud Identity or the default login page for Google. And the reason is because if the SSO system goes down, or if the link between the two systems, between G Suite and the SSO system, the identity provider goes down, you don't want your super admins to be locked out of the service because of the SSO system is down. So This is a good measure actually to make sure the service is kept on even if the single sign-on system goes down, so some super admin can log in and disable the SSO feature while the SSO system is being repaired or being brought online again. And the second point is if the ACS, which is a short for Assertion Consumer Service response that is sent by the IDP, does not contain the appropriate value in the name ID attribute, which in G Suite case is the user email, then the user will not be able to log in, and then he or she will get an error saying the account cannot be accessed because the login credentials could not be verified. So technically Google did not receive or could not receive the appropriate response from the IDP system, even though the user did authenticate properly against that system, but Google could not verify it because the email address was not sent in the name ID attribute or name ID field in that ACS response that was sent. And finally, there are a lot of things that might go wrong while configuring the SSO. And technically the SSO is as a very instruction focused service or thing to configure, because you don't improvise anything from your head while doing this. You will just read the instruction of the system that you're configuring and follow the information there, and then you will end up with the service configured at the end. So there are a lot of things that might go wrong, and there is a very useful link that will help you troubleshoot those issues with a few common cases that you might encounter, including the one that I have mentioned just now, the login or the account cannot be accessed because the login credentials could not be verified. So these are very useful resources for you. I really encourage you to read all those links that I have shared, and they will be in the video resources as external links, so you can get to them whenever you want. So that's it for the theory part. Finally, it's time to check out the admin console, and it's time to see how to work with the SSO parts in G Suite and in the third-party solutions if you are looking to integrate a third-party SSO system with G Suite. So this is the admin console that I'm going to use, and this is my basic admin console. Actually, I've just got an issue in the security interface or the security page on the enterprise one, and for some reason I wasn't able to see the full configuration of the SSO page or the SSO section, where I was only able to see the setup SSO as with Google Identity Provider, but I wasn't able to see the second one. But in all cases, the single sign-on configuration is exactly the same in all of the G Suite editions. So it doesn't matter if I'm using this on basic, and if you're having business or even enterprise, you will still see the same exact interface for your admin console on your end. So the most common practice that is available, that is being used, at least that I have came across, is configuring G Suite with a third-party identity provider, be that Microsoft Active Directory Federation services or whatever other third-party service that provide identity as a service or on-prem identity or whatever. The specific configuration for that are only these few things. You just need to supply 3 URLs. One is the login URL, the logout URL, and the password change URL. And the certificate, the token certificate, I think it's called, or token signing certificate, or claim certificate, or whatever certificate that is generated from the IDP to verify or to authenticate that IDP to G Suite and to make sure this is exactly the IDP that we want to work with. Now, to get these URLs, as I mentioned previously, I don't come up with those from my head. I just follow the instructions provided to me by the IDP, the third-party IDP. And to make this as relevant to you as possible, I'm going to create a trial Auth0 account with you right now, and I'm going to show you from where you can get these URLs and from where you can configure those URLs and get the certificate to integrate with the G Suite admin console and G Suite service. So I'm just opening a new tab here, and I'm going to auth0.com. Then simply I'm going to sign up with the free service, and I'm going to sign up directly with Google. and I'm signing up with the admin that I'm having here. Okay, so here we are. We are in the trial account for the Auth0, and that was fast. So all you have to do is you have to go to the applications, and this is specific to Auth0 again. The instructions are application specific, so what I'm going to show you here is only specific to Auth0, but the concept and the idea is the same. So as mentioned in the beginning, the SSO uses SAML 2.0, and I need to create a sort of interface or an application or a client to that SAML, and then that will integrate or will communicate with G Suite side. So clicking create application, and then I'm going to click or choose regular web application. I'm not sure why, but this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to keep the default name here, and then I'm clicking create. It's still loading for some reason, but let me go to add-ons. And in the add-ons in this application, I see SAML to web app. So I just enable this, and then it asks me to enable or to add the application callback URL, and that is the ACS URL, the Assertion Consumer Service URL. To get the ACS link for G Suite, there is a useful article that I'm going to include also in the resources for this video, that is called Sso Assertion Requirements. And the section that we need to check out is the use elements and attributes. So one of those is the ACS link, which is this one, actually not this one, required value, and this is the URL. So we'll take this. Notice we have to replace the domain with our exact or actual domain. So I'm taking this and I'm clicking copy, then going back to the Auth0 thing and pasting that, then changing this to the domain that I'm using, which is course1.com. Then once I'm done with this, I'm going to click enable. Hopefully that will allow me to enable it. So yeah, so we have enabled the changes, and then I'm going to the usage to get the details that I want, and the details that I want are the login URL, the logout URL, and the certificate, which is this one. So I'm downloading the certificate first of all, and once the certificate is downloaded, we'll see the identity provider login URL. Now again, this is specific to Auth0. The login URL and logout URLs are the same. So this is the URL that I'll need. I'll just copy this. Click copy. Go back to the admin console, and let me just check this one. And let me upload the certificate first. So I have uploaded the certificate. Let me just refresh here to see what's going on. Actually, let me save first. And then I'm checking the enable SSO with third-party identity provider, and I'm going to paste the login URL, and I'm going to paste the logout URL as well. Now, as mentioned, the URLs are all obtained from the identity provider system, and just for the sake of simplicity, I'm not going to search for the password change URL in this one. I'm just going to again copy the same URL from the sign in and sign out, and I'm just going to paste the same URL here, and basically that's it. Before saving, or actually let me save, so it will ask me to confirm whether I want to enable the single sign-on or not, because if I do enable it, users will be locked out of their accounts if they don't know what to do and all of this. So let me just refresh here to check that page. Yeah, so it tells me that notice single sign-on has been enabled for your domain. If the checkout service is enabled now for any of your users, or maybe enabled for any time in the future, you should be aware of the following. So this is just a notification that you need to click I understand and agree, and you have then to accept this, and then you will be redirected to the admin console. Now technically the single sign-on should be working, but first of all I need to provision a user to test on, and then I need to provision the same user on Auth0 so I can test on. So I'm going to users, and I'm going to add a new user that is test SSO. So it's only 2S. So that should be sso.test, and I'm just leaving out the password and all of this because I don't care about the password. My authentication will be done using the auth0. So this is the account, and that is, what is that? This one. Let me just make sure the license is assigned to this one. And manage licenses. So yeah, let me assign the G Suite account, and then that's it. So I'm copying this one because I will need it. Then going to auth0, I'm just clicking. I don't need to click anything, it seems. Yeah, so if I do login now with the user, if I create the user on auth0 and login, then I will get an error saying it's basically the same error that I have mentioned before, that the account cannot be accessed because the login credentials could not be verified. The reason is the first mapping here is the user ID, and that should be the email actually, not the user ID. So I'm just going to uncomment this, and again this is specific to auth0, and all of the information that you will get regarding this are going to be from the auth0 help page and resources. So I got this information from auth0. So doing this, and then we click save, and then I need to provision my user, and I'll create a user. Then this is the email and the password. I'm keeping a very simple password for, okay, yeah. So this is the account that I'm creating. All I need to do now is I have to log in with that account and see if the SSO will work for me or not. So to do this, I will have to find out another interface. So going into accounts.google.com or Gmail or whatever service that is Google service, and let me type the email here and see if I am successful in configuring that SSO or not. If I didn't, then whatever. But you see now I have been redirected to the SSO login page, so it seems I'm doing things properly. This is the email, and then let me try to type the password. Yeah, so again, this is the error that I have got. So yeah, I screwed up a little thing in here. This should make things proper now, and let me save. So hopefully things are good now, and as you see I am able to log into the Gmail account, and I am able to use the Gmail account after logging in with the SSO. If I go to the sign out, again I've got a little trouble here, and again you have to refer to the documentation of the single sign-on system that you're using to resolve this, in addition to that troubleshooting page where I mentioned that there are a lot of cases and a lot of information about what might go wrong with that. And to find out that specific error that we've got, it was about relay state or something, and so it tells you exactly what you need to do. It's something about HTTP responses or something like that. Anyways, so this is basically about SSO. It's a very common practice in medium and large organizations. It's very easy to configure, as you just saw. I have configured SSO in front of you with a trial auth0 account and basic G Suite. It was not a lot of work. All I had to do is getting the right information and provision the right information in the admin console, and then just making sure that the user accounts are provisioned and assigned with the G Suite page, whatever G Suite license that you have, and then provision the users on the IDP as well, because the users are authenticating on this platform, not on G Suite. So I have to make sure the users are there, and then that's it. The users were redirected to the login page, and they were able to log in using the, whatever identity provider service that you're using. So I really hope that this was useful for you, the SSO thing, and hopefully you got, if you had issues before in working with SSO, I hope this did clear them a little bit. Apologies for the time that I have taken in this video. It's very important I clear this point and I explain the SSO because it's a big thing in G Suite and in Google Cloud in general, and you have to be aware about it, how it works, how you can configure it, and what might go wrong, and where to find the troubleshooting information on both G Suite or Google Platform, Google Cloud, and on the IDP or the third-party system that you're working on. Next, we're going to talk about the Advanced Protection Program in security as well. What is this thing? How does it work? How your users get benefit from that, and so on. So until then, I hope this was informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.